Hey everyone! Welcome back to my channel, c'est Jackie. Today we're going to talk about Love is Blind DC. I'm here with the lovely Anne, my sister, and we are going to talk all about the season and part of the reunion. You ready? Let's go!
Ready, ready.
Hey, hey, hey. Okay, let's get into it. This season of Love is Blind has been, I think, of all the seasons that I've watched, the most insane. What do you think? Would you agree with that, Anne?
Very much drama filled, a complete shit show. The most unsuccessful, just the most drama filled, I will say, especially via social media.
Oh goodness. So
So,
just to give y'all context, I've watched every season of Love is Blind US. I've watched Love is Blind UK, Love is Blind Sweden, Love is Blind Mexico. The only ones I haven't watched in the franchise are Love is Blind Japan and Love is Blind Brazil. And I will be watching those because I'm super curious about, how that works with the culture and everything. And I know actually quite a bit about Japanese and Brazilian culture, and so it'll be great to see it. Sweden, I went in blind. I didn't know much about their culture at all. So that was really cool to know. And Mexico, I kind of know their culture, but the franchise, like I learned a lot more about the culture and the people. And this so we live in the DMV. That means DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And I low key wanted to be a part of this season. I, you know, trying to find love over here. And I love Love is Blind. Like I really loved the first season as well as like other seasons, like Love is Blind. Seattle was a really successful season, and I was totally here for it. And so, yeah, I wanted to do Love is Blind DC, duh. But I wasn't chosen. And thank God I wasn't chosen. Like, let's
yeah.
start from the beginning. When this season started, we had high hopes.
Yes,
High
we
hopes.
did.
Because it seemed like the people were really good people, right? Like, there were a bunch of people who matched with each other. And we
Right?
can start with the golden couple, Taylor and Garrett, the
Yes.
scientists.
Yep.
Right?
Perfect match, I would say.
Taylor is of Asian and white descent, and Garrett is white, and they both are scientists, and it seemed like a perfect match from the get-go. Like when we saw them, there were very few bumps in their conversations when they were in the pods, and we didn't really see them interact with other people. So it felt like this is going to work for sure.
Mhm.
And then another couple that was like, oh my gosh, there were again so many couples that just worked. The next one we're going to talk about is Tyler and Ashley.
Yes.
Tyler and Ashley was another couple where both black, I think Tyler is biracial, and
Yes.
it just seemed like a really beautiful pod experience between the two of them. Both were Christian, believers, strong believers, also like really honest with each other, very emotional. Both were very emotional. Tyler was actually more emotional than Ashley in the
Yes, he
pods.
was. He sure was.
And it just felt like a really great match. And too good to be true. Another too good to be true couple.
Right. Absolutely.
And and then another couple, which again we didn't see them interact with lots of other people, were was what's her name? Stephen and
Monica.
thank you, Stephen and Monica. Stephen and
Hmm.
Monica. Stephen is a white man, though he found out through 23 and Me or something that his dad
Right.
had some black in him, some African. And so apparently he says he's like three-fifths black or something. He's very white, very fair-skinned. But okay, sir. That's fine. And Monica is, I don't know if she's black or biracial.
I believe
Um,
she might be, or she has some Native American,
I can see that.
and oh, her mom is from Panama, I think,
Oh, is
or
she Latina too? Oh,
From
okay.
Honduras.
Oh, Honduras. Well,
Honduras, if I
she
remember correctly. So she's
somebody
got,
called her like a Tracy Ellis Ross lookalike, which I think is very, very kind.
yeah.
Um, and I can totally see that.
Hmm.
So they were another one that seemed like a great match, very emotionally connected. Stephen was very honest from the get-go. Like he talked about um, infidelity and how he, cheated in the past by like talking to people, to girls in his DMs. Um, and
Foreshadowing.
and politics was also another thing. Like what was really surprising, like we live here, and like a large majority of the people are military people,
Yeah.
which I was like, why are there so many military
Ah,
people? That's not,
Bodan.
yeah, it's like that's not the
Even Tim.
demographics usually. Yeah,
Right.
exactly, Tim, yeah. Wild. Uh, and yeah, so he was just really honest and also talk politics. There was lots of talk about politics, which is very
Yep. Very
DC. Like
unique and very.
if you know, you know. In these parts in DC, like people love to talk about their jobs to show prestige, their
Yes.
politics, right? And then like other things. So I wasn't surprised by that, but I knew a lot of people were like, wow, people are really talking about their politics. And Stephen was one who was like, oh, I voted for he who shall not be named, and I found out that I was wrong, and yeah, I won't be voting for him this time. Which I was like, at least he was honest about it.
True. Indeed.
But yeah, that was another group, like couple that were like seemed like a match made in heaven.
Hmm.
And then next up, there were two other couples that were featured in the show in the first couple of episodes of the pods. Oh, I forgot. One other couple that also we didn't see them match with anybody else, but just each other were Alex and Tim. So there were
Yes.
four couples in total that just seemed to like match, like really
Very.
hardcore. So Alex and Tim, both of them are black. And they just seemed like Tim was so raw and real about the tragedies of his life, losing his two sisters and how that
Right.
affected him and affected his life, and about his bond with his family. And Alex was really there emotionally for him. And it just felt like a really beautiful match between the two of them.
Mhm. Right.
So those couples were the ones that were just like, again, we saw mostly them interact with each other. And then there were two other groups that were had a love triangle.
Yeah.
So first love triangle was they showed a lot about this love triangle, or actually not triangle, sorry, love square. This one was a love square because it was Nick, Leo, Brittany, and Hannah.
Right.
So Hannah and Brittany were into Leo, and Hannah was into Nick, and Nick was only into Hannah, and Leo was into Brittany and Hannah. I know, not
Indeed.
confusing at all. Right? So Nick only wanted Hannah, Brittany only wanted Leo, but Leo and Hannah were interested in both of these people, these individuals. Yes. And at first, Hannah and Nick were going strong. It felt like there was a really
Right.
good connection. Nick was a smooth talker. Everybody like kind of like threw him away because they were like, he's too smooth.
Rico Suave.
And Brittany was very clear that she was looking to be a kept woman. Leo was very clear that he was a rich man with his Rolex and kept saying, I got money, I got money, I got money. Like, um, and so yeah, and then what else was I gonna say? Hannah and Nick were the youngest people. Hannah is 26 and Nick, I believe, is 27 years old. And Hannah, you know, had a really great connection with Nick, but the other women were telling her how like, nah, he's too suave, he's too all of these things, and she let that get to her head, and
Right, right.
ultimately, decided to break things off with Nick, and then see things with Leo. And then she heard Brittany being like, "Oh, Leo, my fave." And when she saw that, she heard like there was competition, she freaked out and called Nick back. And then she realized, nah, Leo is not for me. Nick is for me. And Leo was pissed because Leo was like, no, he was saying the right things to both Brittany and Hannah, but he was always also honest, like, I have these two connections. But then he tried to bully Hannah into like choosing him, which was really weird. And then when Hannah decided, no, I'm not choosing you, he went to Brittany being like, no, you're the one for me. I always knew you were the one for me. So ultimately, Hannah and Nick became a couple, and Leo and Brittany became a couple. And with Leo and Brittany, we had what people have deemed the most awkward reveal in Love is Blind history. I think that may be true out of all of the reveals that I've seen. Because when
Right.
they saw each other, it was clear Brittany was like, physically, Leo was not it for her. And
Right.
Leo was the opposite, where he was like, she's so drop dead gorgeous. And ultimately, producers decided not to choose this couple to continue the experiment, which made complete and utter sense. 'Cause-
Right. Right.
for reasons. Um, and our last couple that was featured was a love triangle. This was a love triangle, and it was between Marissa, Ramses, and Bowden. Marissa's ex-military. Bowden also. Ramses is not. Ramses is a Venezuelan. I think he's Afro Latino because he looks black. Who is more on the like equitable side. He hates the military, all of that jazz. And Marissa's really bubbly and energetic, and Bowden, her dilemma was Bowden and her were very similar in terms of military background, personality, everything. But Ramses was very much the opposite. But she felt complimented her and her personality. So ultimately, because of that and of his sign, his astrological sign, she went with Ramses. What
Right.
did you think of all of these couples and the pods experience?
They said it well, a lot of them they chose each other pretty quickly early on. So strong couples, Taylor and Garrett, Tyler and Ashley, Tim and Alex, and even Marissa Ramses. I liked them. I felt they were a good match, as well as Hannah and Nick. I was on the fence because I think they both talk too much about their physical appearances, and although Hannah was very hesitant with the way he was, oh, I can't wait to see you in a bikini and all that. And she was like, "Yeah, I don't know, you're being superficial and blah, blah,
Mm,
blah." So they were the only ones like I was like, I don't know if that's going to work out. But the other four couples appeared very, very solid. And I thought, again, they were all very well suited and matched to each other.
yes. And
Mhm.
then the next phase of Love is Blind is the honeymoon
Yep.
in Mexico. And that seemed to go swimmingly for everyone except at the end of the Mexico. And I'm sorry, I should have told y'all from the get, like, this video is gonna have lots and lots of spoilers. Like, we're gonna talk about the season and
Spoiler alert.
lots of spoilers because we're debriefing. We're talking, probably gonna do a part two, to be honest, because there's so much to talk about and we don't have so much time today to talk about them. But definitely all the couples seem to be like getting deeper, finding their physical
Oh,
connection, especially, and except for at the very end, there's a bombshell between Alex and Tim. And production, I think
yeah.
production done messed up in this situation because they didn't show us anything. All they showed us was Tim and Alex meeting up after said event had occurred, talking
Hmm.
about like that was messed up. Tim was ready to go and end things, to call it quits. And Alex was like, I'm apologized and was like, please, please, please give me another chance. Like that wasn't, yeah, that wasn't representative of me, blah, 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 blah. No. And there's been a lot of talk about that couple because, some people are like, oh, it feels like Alex was pretending to like Tim because it seemed like from the get-go she wasn't really into him. And why does she want to continue with the experiment? Like, is it just for clout or what? And I don't know. I feel like the problem with this particular couple is so much footage was not shown to us. I think
Yes.
so many things occurred either when cameras were not rolling or when cameras were rolling and they decided not to share that with us, that we are left with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, there must be a reason why, other than, getting more Instagram followers. I think that's too obvious, and I don't think that's the reason. I think there was love between them. I think there was a genuine connection. I just think there was also lots of issues that happened between them, and we were not privy to those issues.
Hmm. Indeed. Only so much that can be shown. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
unfortunate. But
But after the
hopefully,
honeymoon, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I'm like, hopefully they will show it during the reunion. It's possible.
Doubt it. Doubt it greatly because, like you said, only so much time, and the reunion is not very long. Um, I have
Yeah.
lots of tea on the reunion as well in terms of what happened. I know some people who were there and who watched it, and who, yeah, have already divulged a lot of information.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, we're never going to know the truth. It's always like what they say. There's person's A's truth, there's person's B truth, and then there's the real truth in the middle. It's
Right,
the one
right,
in the middle.
right. Hmm.
Anywho, they, some way, somehow, though, all six of these couples that, we said were matches in the pods and went to the honeymoons go into the third phase of Love is Blind, which is you go back home to where you live. They set you up in an apartment that they pay for, where you live together, and then you have to meet each other's friends, families, and prepare for a wedding within like a month, 4 weeks.
Hmm.
And so the couples that continued into this third part were Stephen and Monica, Marissa and Ramses, Alex and Tim, Garrett and Taylor, Ashley and Tyler, and Nick and Hannah.
Yep.
And this season of Love is Blind DC was really wild in terms of like the different couples like dissolving before the end, before
Right.
the marriage, the wedding ceremony. And it's weird because I think based off of previous Love is Blind seasons and contracts, if you wanted to be aired, you had to go all the way to the end, to the wedding ceremony, and there decide at the altar Whether you say yes, you get married, or no, you don't get married.
Right.
And many times there were lots of blind sides, right? Because couples didn't talk to each other. And so one person would say no, and one person was like, I was going to say yes. But this season, there was none of that. All of the couples that had issues dissolved before the wedding ceremonies, save for two.
Right.
We're not going to get into all of the drama and things that happened, but just a little bit. Like, I think with the first couple to go was Stephen and Monica.
Mm, yeah.
Any thoughts on them,
I'm
man?
surprised. I mean, it was unfortunate, but from what I heard, Monica, all I know is Garrett and Taylor texted all the couples that they were making cookies and they were going to stop by at some point to deliver them to their rooms. And and apparently it was Steven who got the text message or whatever. And then he went to the bathroom and then his phone was going off. And then Monica noticed that. So she's like, he's my fiance essentially. So she picked up his phone and she did end up seeing the text. On top of that, she saw texts from other women and she kind of opened that up and saw they were talking kinky stuff about meeting up and blah 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 blah. So, and then yeah, from that point on, she's like, I know what you're doing, and basically was like, I think time for us to break things off. So that was, it wasn't a surprise because he did say he cheated in the past, and yeah, unfortunate,
Steven.
unfortunate.
Yeah, I
Mm,
feel like he wanted to sabotage himself. It was weird because Monica all of a sudden was very demanding in terms of like wanting flowers and for him to, show him signs of affections. The flower things, I think, really pissed off a lot of people. I'm
I
not gonna lie,
think
I was a little annoyed because it felt like, girl, what?
no, no,
Like, I
no.
think love languages is something that's very important, and I'm a big believer in people needing to understand what, you know, their their partners, their paramours' love language is, and try as best as they can to fulfill those, and vice versa, right? Like it's a give and a take. That being said, and it may be again the editing that made it seem like it felt like just she was obsessing over flowers, which was weird.
Right. That's definitely what it gave.
Yeah. And then Steven was just shady. Like I felt like he was shady from, the pods, to be honest. And then like in Mexico too, like I saw like him like kind of like checking out some of the women and like just like, and he was very much into the physical. Like he kept pushing that and talking about that all the time. And again, it may be just the editing, but it felt like he was a little obsessed.
Mhm.
And anyone with an addiction, especially a sexual addiction, I don't know if they're ready for a monogamous relationship.
Yeah,
That's just
definitely
me.
not.
And I'm like, dude, if that's not what you need and what you want, then don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep, yep.
So, first to dissolve. Next one to dissolve after them was Hannah and Nick. And they lasted at least until pretty late in the game. Um, it wasn't until right before the wedding ceremonies, basically, that they dissolved. Were you
Hmm.
surprised, Dan?
No, because it just there were too many. Hannah had too many complaints and too many things she wouldn't let up on, and as she shouldn't, And Nick, I feel he was playing her a little bit because he just was taking her. It's hard to explain, but also Modu, he was just like, I feel he was kind of playing the game. Like, I'll let her be the bad guy. But clearly,
Yeah.
like, yeah, they needed to just break things off, and I'm glad they did because they would not have lasted.
I don't know. You know, it's funny. I'm more Team Nick. I'm not gonna
Oh,
like
yeah,
take away
I am also Team Nick because I think he was a good guy and
because, like,
tried.
don't get me wrong. I think there's some legitimate concerns, and I think it's good to talk about concerns and deal with them. And there were things. So, like, he was in football for a really long time, and then when he finished, that career ended. He went to live with his parents, and there's nothing wrong with living with your parents, by the way. That like is
Agreed.
low key a really like terrible thing about Americans, in my opinion, is that they like think like if you are a quote unquote adult and you don't live by yourself, like you're not an adult, which is bullshit. I live with my now parent, my dad, and two of my siblings, and I've done so since undergrad. And I can tell you, friends, I am an
Right.
adult, okay? I can do all of the things. I know how to cook, I know how to clean, I know how to do all of the things. I don't have that many bills. Like, I don't know. And it's just like, that's my life. And there are lots of people who have different circumstances in life. That doesn't make you not an adult. It just means like you're able to do some things and not able to do other things.
Right.
So for me, that was not a red flag. That is not a problem. And he was very much willing and happy to get a new house with Hannah once they were married,
Yeah.
or like to move in and pay rent. Like he was cool with that.
Yeah.
And he had a job. No
That's
offense.
what he's doing now
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. He has a job, and Hannah quit her job for Love is Blind. So I'm like,
Right.
come on, friends, what are we talking about? Number two, the fact that he doesn't know how to cook, like, Lord, if you heard stories of my mom talking about my dad and cooking when they were going
A
out,
lot of people who don't know
a
how to
lot of people
cook.
don't know how to cook. A lot of people don't know how to boil water for pasta. A lot of people don't know how to do really simple tasks, or what we deem as simple. They don't know how to do it. That's not a big deal to me. Like, whatever. I don't care.
Learn.
Exactly. He can learn, and he was happy to learn. What I didn't like about Hannah was the way she talked to him. She
Yes.
was real mean. And again, it may have been the edit that she was given. I don't know. But I've also seen since a lot of her TikToks, her interviews with people, like lots of other things where she talks. And it always seems like it comes with this air of superiority. And I'm not here for it.
Right.
And I think she has a lot of growing up to do. She needs to learn a
Literally.
lot more empathy and compassion.
Agreed. 26,
And
27.
it was very toxic the way she would put him down and be like, "But I love you." Like it felt wrong.
Yeah.
Not here for it. Sorry, Hannah. Not here for it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they broke up. More so for Nick's sake personally than for hers.
Right, right,
She'll be
right.
fine. And the last couple to disintegrate was Ramses and Marissa, which
Yeah.
was a big shock. To me anyway. I don't know about
Yeah.
you,
I
but
think so too, because it seemed like they were locked in, although they had a lot of disagreements,
mhm.
which they kind of talked through, and a lot of things I did not particularly like that
Mm.
Ramses would talk about, like especially when it came to intercourse and
Woo,
not
child.
wanting to wear a condom. And for me, like men who, it's like she clearly is sick. Later on, she did do an interview where she did say that she has rheumatoid arthritis. It's an autoimmune condition. And,
Mm.
she did allude to the fact that she tried birth control. It was not a good experience for her, so she did not want to kind of get back on that. And, meanwhile, he's talking about, like, oh, I need to feel good, but we can't have children too soon. And it's like, sir, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, if you don't want to have kids, then you better put on a condom or
Or or
and
get what I didn't understand is why didn't he
vasectomy.
talk about vasectomy because it's reversible for men.
And it's so frustrating. I mean, there's always a risk though of becoming pregnant, apparently, with the vasectomy. So
Yes.
even in that case, it's like, sir, you don't have many choices here. It's like it's hard. because again, that was an issue also on last year's season, that a guy not wanting to, but I think he was willing to wear a condom. However, he didn't think that was foolproof. So he wanted her to still consider birth control. So that, I'm not gonna lie, that whole conversation gave me just, I was definitely like looking at Ramses a different way. Like, what is wrong with you? But it is a battle for a lot of people in the real world. That is a thing. So, but yeah, I did think they had talked through a lot of their issues. And again, they seem pretty solid. I mean, there were some signs that maybe he was not as, because I knew the energy thing would come into play again because he did mention that in the pods. But because he had mentioned it, you know, again outside of the pods, I don't think a lot of us viewers thought it would be an issue. So, yep, that was quite interesting to say the least.
Yeah, it was hard because that was another one where I'm like, what happened? Like the way that Ramses like completely broke it off. I mean, I'm happy for my girl Marissa that he did that because
Right.
it's no bueno when you get married and then you get divorced really fast. Like that's not fun.
Exactly.
That's no bueno. That being said, things were going so swimmingly, it felt for this couple. Like the physical chemistry and everything was out of this world. And
Yeah.
then to like completely break it down, and he was like, my ex-wife, I didn't know how much she was hurt. Like he talked about that, and like it was just
Yeah.
like it came out of left field for us viewers, and it felt
Yeah.
like there were things that had happened beforehand that we were not privy to. So we're just like, huh?
What?
What? What is
And
going
I'm
on?
like, and what
And
do you think? Of course he was hurt.
yeah. And
It
to
was,
me, Ramses's response to Marissa, because Marissa, this was also one of the most rawest, heartbreaking scenes that has ever been shown on Love is Blind. Like,
yeah,
we could hear and see her heartbreak. One, I was low-key kind of like, this is a little exploitative TV. Like, that's not cool. I
yeah.
hope that y'all like checked in with her to make sure that she was okay or gave her resources to help her through that because
Right.
that's not cool to show that to the world. Great in terms of like showing us, you know, for those of us who have gone through a heartbreak, like the pain, we get it. We totally empathize, and people were like really there to support her on the social media front, at least. That being said, Ramsey seemed a little bit cold. He didn't seem like as empathetic as I wanted him to be. I wanted him to have way more compassion.
Definitely.
And like for someone who says that he was so in love with her, like shouldn't he be broken too that he came to this conclusion? And maybe he was beforehand. Maybe he cried it out, by himself before he talked to Marissa. I don't know, but like I would have liked to see a more emotional response from him personally.
Right. Definitely, definitely.
Yes.
Very, very heartbreaking indeed. And I'm glad she still was willing to ask him, like, are you sure?
Yeah.
And just to make sure, because she needed clarification, really, because again, it did seem to come out of left field. So I feel for her in that moment.
Yeah. And so ultimately we were left with two couples and not to like, talk a millionth
Oh,
time
you
over
did
it.
forget Alex and Tim.
Oh, Alex and Tim. Oh, I forgot. They were
The
they
first, the first or second, because
well no, it
Steven
was it was definitely Monica and Steven who got dissolved first, and
first,
then it was after Monica and Steven.
Tim, I think it was Tim and Alex next.
Tim and
Then
Alex
it was
next.
Hannah and Nick, and lastly Ramses and Marissa.
Right, right. We totally forgot about Tim and Alex. So yeah, that also, but we talked about it at the beginning of this video where it was kind of like, what? Like it seemed really great. Tim like had this beautiful, beautiful meeting with Alex's parents, and her dad has a medical condition. What is it?
I don't know. They didn't mention it, but it looked like he might have been in an accident of some sort because he does
I thought
have
it was MS or
mobility.
something they talked
Oh,
about.
you're right.
Yeah, right?
They
I thought
talk
it was
about it
MS,
in the
multiple
pods.
sclerosis.
MS, multiple
Sclerosis?
sclerosis.
Yeah.
Yeah, your speech, your
Mhm.
mobility, and all are affected. Yeah,
Yeah. And they
yeah,
had a beautiful like meeting with her family, and like Tim talked to her dad, and that was an incredible like conversation, and he got his approval, and like I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna
I
be a
know.
match." And
I think
then
I had
fast
tears in my eyes.
Yeah, me too. It was such a beautiful moment. Fast forward, we see her interaction with his parents, and it seems like it's fine. It doesn't have the same energy and chemistry as Tim with her family, but still,
Right.
like, it feels like, okay, this is going well. And then
Mhm.
the next scene we see, Tim is like, I'm out. I never want to see you again. And it was really harsh. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I was also like, I don't think this is the best way for this conversation to have gone. That being said, Alex's response also were like not meshing for me. And I was just like, this is not a good scene for either of y'all. Like, I don't know what happened, but this is no bueno.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, oh, I mean, yeah, yeah, it was bad. It was pretty bad.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like so far, both of them have like gone and used social media to, you know, talk about what not specifics, but like just talk about in general, like, things about the relationship and the show and unfortunately, like again, this is one of those couples, and I know at the reunion they're both going to talk about their own side of the story and like stuff like
Mhm.
that and how it didn't make sense. Like for Alex, she talks about she thought he went from 0 to 100 in terms of like being on board to having doubts and like calling everything off.
Mhm.
I personally think there's a lot more to this story and to their story, and we're
Right.
just never gonna know the truth.
Exactly. 'Cause there were clearly some issues anyway, from
Hmm.
again, Mexico, her putting her hands on his mouth. Of course, I heard somewhere that it wasn't the case, but y'all did mention that there was clearly a fight to the point where he was like, I'm out. And
Hmm.
again, he did mention he doesn't. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Every time I've spoken with a guy who's like, oh, I'm not about the drama. If you raise your voice, if you're sassy, blah, 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 I'm
Hmm.
done. And I get it. Nobody wants drama, but it's like being in an argument is part of a relationship, it's part of life. It's how you handle it and resolve it that matters because it's inevitable. So I understand he was like, I'm not about arguing at all. And yeah, but it happened clearly. And I think he was just like, I cannot handle that. Like, that's not something I want, in my life. Or so
Hmm.
I, I kind of saw it coming because, again, he wasn't about that life.
Yeah, yeah. I also was like, I don't know about this. But
Yeah, glow up though. She's grown up.
oh, I mean, so many people are like, oh, there are lots
Yeah,
of like articles on like, we're flying to DC looking at all these glow ups from this cast. And I'm like, okay,
yeah, there's a
okay.
lot. But I feel it happens with every season because I
Yeah,
feel there's something to be said. You see yourself on TV. I mean,
yeah.
Hannah's a great example. She even mentioned how she had weight issues and
Mm-hmm.
then she lost what, 35, 40 pounds.
A
And
lot.
again, to me, she looked
She
fine.
looked great.
But she wasn't thin by any means, but she looked fine to me. It's
Yeah.
just her body structure
Mm-hmm.
made her look perhaps a little bigger.
Yes.
And but then obviously we've all seen her TikToks and whatnot, and she's definitely
She's
lost what,
a lot
her
of weight.
35, 40, potentially 50 plus pounds, and
Mm-hmm.
well, she looks great, but it's like physical changes will only do so much for you. It's like you got to
Exactly.
change. internally, emotionally, you
Hmm.
know. Uh, so hopefully that work has been done as well.
Let's
But I
hope.
get
And the
it.
thing is, with these things, like, I know we love to talk about this, us, the world, like, people love to talk about these people as if they know them. And full disclosure, y'all, I do not know these people. There's Tim, I actually know in real life. But even that, then I still don't know him, like, and so I'm not purporting to be an expert on these people or on the way that they handled things or any of that stuff. I'm just
Right.
saying how I feel having watched these episodes and this season, right? And I'm just like, listen, one big one that we haven't talked about, and we'll have to talk in another part, maybe part two. Maybe I'll do part two for later on, for next week or later on this thing. But the whole Ashley and Tyler situation.
Oh,
Tyler having three children that he called sperm donations,
owners,
that
right.
he was just a sperm donor and to them, and like he wasn't a real father. And then all of this evidence came through of him actually being in the kids' life and like spending time with the baby mama and supporting her, and him having to pay child support. So that goes against the whole idea that he's a sperm donor, because sperm donors don't have to pay child support for
Right.
children. So it's a mess. And Ashley has doubled down, being like, I know everything, I know the situation, y'all don't know anything. And I think the reason why people are fighting so hard is because we've seen a lot in Love is Blind that black women, and not just Love is Blind, I think a lot of these TV shows about love, Married at First Sight, Love is Blind, have done black women wrong. They have been wronged so badly. Married at First Sight has some horrific examples of black women being done wrong in their process. And
Right.
people are just very pissed and territorial and scared about these women being abused for TV, you know,
Mm-hmm.
by by the system, by the men that these TV shows choose, by all of these things. And I understand. I mean, if we have to talk about statistics, the statistics are not very good in this country for single black women, okay, with children. Like it is a high percentage, and it's a for many reasons that we're not going to get into, but I get it. I get it, and I really do hope that Ashley knows everything, like
Right.
absolutely everything, and is making an informed decision because that's what I want. I want her to be, I have the ability to make an informed decision. And Tyler, to me, like it always makes baffles me because I'm like, do these people not know that people are going to investigate their lives?
Right. Right. And plus, it's like at the end of the day, wouldn't you want to come and like be honest? Because again, somebody mentioned like last season,
Mm,
Jess was very open from the jump. I have a 9-year-old daughter. Take it or
exactly.
leave it. So it's like if she was able, and again, she may have been chosen, and it's like I understand you were scared she was gonna run for the hills and whatnot, but it's like, wouldn't you just want to base your relationship on the truth to begin with? Just tell her straight up.
Yeah.
Listen, I was young or I wanted to help a friend out. Because again, I saw all the videos I needed to see the best friend he had, the
Girl.
kids with the wife's best friend, well, best friend.
Ex-wife. His
Yeah,
best friend's
so
ex-wife, yeah.
and there's so much drama, and even apparently he's, again, all allegedly, like he's done some things, done wrong by his ex-fiance and all that. And I get it, you're young and you do whatever you want to do. And without consequence. But then, in the end, you realize it's, you know. So it's like, I wish he would have just been honest from the beginning. It's like, I want to
Yeah.
tell you everything off camera. However, yes, I do have three kids and they do know me. However, my best friend and I told her that I wanted to come on the show, which again, that's what she corroborated that story, and
Yeah.
I'm just here to find love. Honesty would have taken it. And then it's up to her to decide what she wanted to do, Ashley. So it's like, and if she didn't want to accept it, then she's not for you. And
Exactly.
again, I honestly don't think I think he's fine finding any woman anyway, from everything I've heard. So it's like,
Mm.
I just don't get it.
Yeah,
That
and
was-
his reputation is, like, of course, again, we are judging based off of the facts that we have. Like, there may be more facts that are needed, but he's been purported to, he was um, engaged to an anchor, another beautiful black woman who apparently cheated on for much of the duration of his relationship with her. And so,
Get it.
and he's been known to do that. And so it's just, to me, it makes me really nervous and worried for Ashley.
Yeah. I just hope he's grown up and learned from his mistakes, apologized, and done the work to do better.
Yes.
And I just hope it wasn't all the persona, like, oh, I'm God fearing and I pray and all that. I'm a very empathetic person and I try to give, like, I'm giving all these people grace. I'm like, I think like people should like just wait to hear his side and pray he gives us what we want to hear,
Mm.
and just don't chew him out. He's just
Unfortunately, at the
human at the
reunion,
end of
he
the
will
day.
not be giving us. Um,
That's what I've been hearing, which is very frustrating. I mean, I wonder if because you can annul the
yeah.
marriages, I wonder if you can.
Oh, you can if there's fraud involved, but I don't know if this would qualify as that. There are several. Fraud is one. Consumption, right? Like not actually having sex with your partner is another one. Um, yeah, we'll see. But today, this is all for today. This is already a lot. It's a much longer video than I thought it was going to be, but like, because there's so much to talk about, there will be another part two, to talk about because again, there's just so much to talk about. Um, Thank you, Anne, for joining me today.
No
Thank you,
problem.
for those of you who are watching. Please let us know your thoughts in the chat below. Like, we want to know all about your thoughts too. Like, please, fam, let's go. Um, and would you ever participate in Love Is Blind? Why or why not? Um, we'll definitely go get into that in a part two series, as well as like uh, Tyler, Taylor, and Garrett. We
Oh,
still have things to talk about with them too. About, did Taylor overreact? Did she not? When she found out that Garrett was messaging his ex, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in part two. Um, and
okay.
just, yeah, I mean, I personally, after watching this, am like interested in watching the next Love Is Blind, and I know that they have already set up a bunch. Oh, another one that I've seen is Love Is Blind Habibi. Gotta talk about
I've
that
heard
sometime.
about Habibi.
Gotta
Is it
talk
in
about it.
Arabic?
It's Middle East. They basically didn't choose a specific place. They do like center in Dubai, but yeah, very interesting, yo.
Subtitles?
You can watch it in original with subtitles, or you can watch it with dubbed. I always
Um,
prefer original with subtitles. That's just me.
yeah,
Unless I'm
I'm not a
busy,
big
then I watch it with.
fan of the dubbing.
Yeah, I like sub more, but if I'm busy, I do it dubbed. But thank you again, friends. Gosh,
Ah,
so much stuff.
like it, subscribe, and comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thanks, Anne, for talking with me about it. I really wanted to talk about it.
Not a problem.
Excellent. Ciao, people, and see you next
Bye.
time.
Bye.
Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum.